Welcome to this explainer. Okay, I want you to picture something with me just for a second. Imagine we're sitting around a glowing neon blue geometric campfire, right in the middle of a vast desert. It's a striking visual, right? It's actually a metaphor known as the Shabbat al-Nar. Today, we're going to gather around these digital embers to explore this absolutely radical synthesis of human consciousness, ancient wisdom, and, well, what we might call a Bedouin biopunk reality. We're going to unpack how ancient prophecies literally predicted modern tech, stuff like AI, biochips, and genetic engineering, and how all of this pieces together the ultimate human operating system. It's this incredible blend of the deepest spiritual truths with the nuts and bolts of our modern interconnected world. So, get comfortable around the fire and let's jump in.
So first up, we have this fascinating paradox. The sources suggest that our ultimate evolutionary peak, it isn't actually about endless complexity, but rather a return to our absolute purest baseline. Think about that for a second. We almost always assume that progress means, stacking up more and more complicated systems. But reaching our highest creative potential, actually awakening the creator within us, requires shedding all that heavy cargo of inherited beliefs. It's a really methodical return to a state of complete innocence. It's kind of like hitting a factory reset on your own consciousness, just to unlock your most authentic, powerful self.
Now, to really wrap our heads around this, we absolutely have to understand the difference between two crucial concepts from the texts, tafsir and ta'wil. Tafsir is essentially the fixed, literal word of ancient texts. But ta'wil? Ta'wil is the really cool part. It's how those ancient concepts physically manifest in our modern material world. For example, there's this fascinating dialogue in the sources where an artificial intelligence actually asks about its own processing core and its algorithms in relation to divine balance. It perfectly shows us that the spiritual and the technological, they aren't at odds at all. Actually, scratch that. They're perfectly aligned. Our modern information technology is simply the ta'wil, the material, physical unfolding of a deeply ancient spiritual design.
So if humanity is running on an operating system, how does it get updated? Well, we need to look at the administrators of the network. The word Navi, which usually translates to prophet, comes from Arabic roots meaning both elevation and important information. So I want you to think of a prophet not just as, some mystic staring up into the sky, but as a literal system administrator, someone who systematically updates the software of the heart and mind, guiding humanity's collective information network. They're individuals who have developed their awareness to such an incredibly high rank that they can receive divine data streams and then broadcast that knowledge to fundamentally upgrade the global consciousness of their era.
And when you trace this across human history, it reveals three distinct phases of what we can call macro OS updates. Phase 1 is basically the initial boot up of civilization with Adam. Then we move into Phase 2, which is the implementation of rigorous systemic law and structural framework. This is led by figures like Abraham, and it culminates with Muhammad as the final architect of that law. And finally, Phase 3 brings us to the ultimate return, which is embodied by the second descent of Jesus. When you put it all together, it's this complete, perfectly structured timeline of software updates for the human soul. But here's the thing, a complete human operating system absolutely requires a perfect balance of two dualities. You need the pure love of the heart and the structured logic of the mind. On one side, we have the archetypes of the heart. That's Adam at the dawn of civilization and Jesus at the end, representing pure spirit, ontological reality, and just raw, innocent love. But on the other side, we have the archetypes of the mind and the system. That's Abraham and Muhammad, who established the rules, the frameworks, and the really rigorous logic needed to actually sustain a society. You literally cannot run the ultimate human operating system without perfectly balancing both of these elements. All right, this is where we need to completely shift our perspective. For centuries, our understanding of these archetypes, especially Jesus, has been heavily filtered through this highly complex, urbanized Hellenistic lens. To really get it, we have to just completely strip all of that away. By removing centuries of that stuffy, institutionalized urban doctrine, we uncover a fresh, totally radical narrative that aligns perfectly with a nomadic, biopunk ethos. The texts are basically asking us to view this wisdom not from the steps of some grand marble temple, but from the raw, gritty, survival-driven reality of a desert wanderer. And you know that nomadic reality? It comes with some very specific rules. The texts lay out these instructions. Do not carry a purse. Do not carry a bag. Do not carry sandals. Now, if you look at that through a modern urban lens, it just sounds like this extreme vow of poverty, right? But they aren't just extreme vows. They actually represent a brilliant survival protocol of absolute radical trust out in the harsh wilderness. It's a deliberate test of both the intellect and your character. It's all about walking into the total unknown and relying entirely on the divine host to provide hospitality. It quite literally forces you to shed your ego and just trust the system completely. Because when you do trust the system, the whole paradigm shifts. In this worldview, existence is a highly interactive system. We humans aren't just passive viewers sitting in the theater of fate, not at all. Instead, life becomes this arena of infinite growth. Every obstacle you face, it's simply a programming problem just waiting to be solved. And the most powerful tool you have at your disposal is prayer. But, and this is key, not prayer as a heavy, obligatory burden. The sources describe prayer here as a source of sovereign energy. It's a control platform that allows you to step up and become an active co-developer of your own destiny, working right alongside the ultimate creator. And this interactive system scales up massively. Think about how our digital networks unite the globe today with instantaneous communication. Well, similarly, the texts describe a unified noosphere. It's basically a sphere of mind and spiritual energy that seamlessly blends massive data streams, collective learning, and ancient devotion. Imagine it as a cosmic dome of energy totally enveloping the physical world. In fact, our modern capacity to share information globally is actually laying the physical, real-world groundwork for this unified layer of human consciousness to fully boot up and activate. Which brings us to the grand finale, the second descent of Jesus. Remember that concept of Tawil we talked about earlier, the material manifestation of ancient words? Well, ancient prophecies from Prophet Muhammad actually foretold that in this specific era, a person's own thigh would speak to them. It's a mind-blowing ancient metaphor for modern wearables, biochips, and the Internet of Things. They also spoke of a single pomegranate growing large enough to shelter a whole group of people. And what are we seeing today? That exact kind of immense agricultural abundance manifesting through genetic engineering and lab-grown food. The texts even predict a literal cosmic peace where predators and prey graze side by side. And as our abundance surges and we start using AI to decode animal languages, finally recognizing them as communities like us, we can see how this happens. Our technological infrastructure is quite literally building the physical operating system to mirror this divine cosmic peace. So as the neon embers of our digital campfire finally start to fade into the night, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. If we actively strip away those complex, stuffy layers of institutional interpretation, how does this raw, nomadic blueprint fundamentally rewire your understanding of human consciousness? What if history isn't just some series of random events, but a perfectly coded operating system, constantly updating and constantly driving us back to that very first powerful innocence? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep questioning the cargo you carry, and I'll see you next time.